Sometimes professional medical help doesn't arrive fast enough to accident scenes. This is why emergency medical technician Javier Canul encourages the public to learn basic first aid skills. Canul has been responding to accidents for more than 21 years. As an EMT with paramedic training, he knows the problems facing victims in remote areas or locations where people cannot get in touch with EMTs for instructions.
If you're on the road and you're in the middle of nowhere, after calling for help, you want to make sure that you are safe. You must be safe, because you don't want to go in there and then create problems. You become a patient yourself. And only if there is a potential danger for the patient, that's when we will take action. And the action that we would take is to try to remove the patients from where they're at so that we can take care of them properly away from any dangers.
And there is some technique involved to remove the injured person from the wreckage site.
If you're going to be pulling anybody, you do not want to be dragging them left or right. There is a procedure called an inline position or in axis, meaning that if the spine is running this way, you pull them that way. If the spine is running that way, you want to pull them directly in that long line. According to the lining of the spine, that's how you want to pull the patient. So pulling them, and basically if you notice when Aaron was pulling Roy, he did the close drag. The first one is the close drag, held the close drag, and his heads were resting in his palm of his hand to continue to secure that.
Once the injured is relocated to a safe area, you should also check for sign of life.
If they're not breathing, you need to open the airway. So there's two ways to open an airway, which is the head tilt chin lift, which you will use if you do not suspect spinal injury. If in the case of a traffic accident, you will always suspect spinal injury. If a car is running at 75 miles an hour, the body flying will be at 75 miles an hour too. So you will have to use what we call a jaw thrust maneuver. So what Aaron was doing was, without moving the spine, he actually pushed the chin back and pulled the chin up, and had to actually open the airway without moving the spine.
Canul says you can also save a life by stopping blood loss.
Most people who are on accident scenes normally would bleed to death. And bleeding to death, we can, instead of videoing, we can use our hands to stop bleeding, as demonstrated by the guys. And there's a thing called Stop the Bleeding, of which we started demonstrating. If it's on the extremities, and the extremities are your arms and your legs, if there is a pool of blood and it continues to bleed, then we have to use what we call a tourniquet. Get your sterile dressing, and that is what you will push in the wound. Push it in as far as you can go. The patient will cry out, he's in pain, but that will save his life. These are called junctional areas. Okay, you can't put a tourniquet. If it's on the trunk of the body, you can't pack anything, because if you pack, you might damage and contaminate the internal organs, and so you might just apply direct pressure. If it keeps bleeding, you apply additional stuff. Do not remove the first layer.
Canul is co-owner of ABC Life Support, which teaches first aid and accident response. He advises that you carry a first aid kit and learn basic first aid response, which can be used to help save a life. Reporting for News 5, I'm Andrea Polanco.